Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. We know roughly 7 rosters that have currently been either confirmed or pretty much confirmed so far in this Rostermania period, but Clayster believes that 10 or even 11 of the teams have a very good idea what they're planning to do. No leaker has really talked about yet what's going on with Seattle Surge, what's going on with Los Angeles Grillers, but apparently they have some players locked down and in consideration. Who are these guys going to be? Could Illy get involved, especially if Rambo's going over there to the Seattle Surge side? Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Now, first of all, the official confirmation arrived yesterday of Modern Warfare 3, and I find it mind-blowing how every year this gets confirmed, and we see people tweeting, oh my god, let's go, it's happening. I'm like, bro, at this point, surely you've just run out of any faith. I know people say, oh, like, well, the COD marketing team does it different. They always get me hyped every year. And that was probably the case for me, like, 5 years ago. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, like, I've just given up having any faith. Now, it is being released on November the 10th, which is definitely later than, well, it's kind of in line with what it used to be. I think, what, Black Ops 2 was, what, November 11th or something? It's always been in November. But for Black Ops Cold War, and certainly last year's game, Modern Warfare 2, I think Modern Warfare 2 came out on October the 28th or something like that, so a little bit earlier. So this game's kind of more traditional time, early November, pretty standard, and there's been talk about what the movement's going to be. Sly cancelling going to return. Are we going to have red dots in the game? That would be nice. Are we going to have better maps in the game? That would be nice. They've also managed to finesse people into texting this number. I don't know if they're actually making any money off this, but if you do text it, then you have standard like rates that apply, and there's some sort of like chat bot basically on the other end that will give you some intel on the game. So I guess COD marketing does kind of do it different, and they need their marketing to be good because, you know, the game doesn't market itself anymore with the product they seem to put out over the last couple of years. I want to see some better maps in the game. I know that people want Dead Silence. If it's what we currently had Modern Warfare 2 with red dots and Dead Silence and better maps, and the maps on this past year's game, okay, some of them were pretty bad, but some of them weren't too bad. Hopefully we're going to have a decent enough title this time around, especially because the season on paper is looking really tasty, right? With the way the top rosters are looking, I want to have a good season because Black Ops 3 was, in my opinion, the best COD game ever released from a casual playing and competitive playing perspective, just from an entertainment value. But that season was, I would say, squandered by lack of events in the rotation that season. The storylines were great and all that, but there were barely any real international events that year, which was definitely a shame to look back on. So hopefully this season, given the fact that the storyline should be great and the game should hopefully be better than next year, maybe I'm getting brought into this whole like optimism thing now as well. I will also mention on the maps though, I do want to see some of these get remade, right? Now, the Modern Warfare 2 maps, for some reason, the likes of HyDra, Terminal, all these OG ones, Scrapyard, for example, that were played in competitive back in the day, were never added in the regular life cycle. We thought that was because we were going to have year 2 of the same game, and they were going to bring all the new maps back. Or the old maps back, as opposed to the new game. That never happened, and it may happen now. They might add all those MW2 maps into MW3, but that would be a little bit weird if they didn't also bring back some MW3 maps, and there were some decent maps from this game as well. To be honest, I never played much MW3 because I was just playing Black Ops 1, to be honest, while this was out, and then I went straight on to Black Ops 2, right, after MW3's year concluded. So I don't even really know the name of these two maps. I'm sure you guys can let me know in the comments below. I know this is Seatown for sure. There was a few legendary moments of competitive play on this map back in the day. In the competitive scene was a bit weird that season, and this has got to be Resistance, right? So there's a few maps that, this is just Marksman saying maps that he'd like to see back from a search and destroy perspective, I imagine. But if they're going to bring back, I feel like a map like High Rise, they remastered it in Advanced Warfare as Skyrise or something, and they played it in competitive. Like the Advanced Warfare season was kind of wild like that. They would just play all sorts of these DLC maps. But Skyrise, or the High Rise remake, was one of them, and even with Advanced Movement, they still played it, and it was still kind of viable. So I think that it can work as well if they do bring High Rise back, and I think Terminal, I feel like Terminal, I don't know if it would really play well for Hardpoint, but I feel like it kind of could. It's a pretty well-designed map, you gotta say. So I'm hoping that they do something here. They better do at least, because the fact that we played Modern Warfare 2 with maps that were just not Modern Warfare 2 maps at all was frustrating, especially when you see that we're playing Fortress Control week in, week out. At least that was the case for some time. Now, Clayster has been on the stream grind, of course, and actually mentioned a very interesting, while he's playing Valorant, as he always does at the moment, piece of information on what the teams and rosters are currently playing at. We know, as it stands, that I think think 4 teams have been confirmed. We know Boston, we know OpTic, we know FaZe, and we know Toronto. They've confirmed things. Subliners has got to be coming soon, right? I mean, the CDL even leaked or confirmed that Sib is going to be going there, and we think we know what the Thieves are doing, and we think we know what Minnesota Rocker are doing, but outside of that, we don't really know. Clay, though, believes that from his understanding, every team is basically confirmed. Like, they've decided what they're doing, except 1 or 2 teams. Now, we can guess what those 1 or 2 teams are. London and Vegas, I'm guessing, are the 2. They won't be making calls, I think, for some time. Also, though, does this sound like the reaction of a man that has a spot locked in, or is he just, you know, is he just playing with us a little bit here?
Out of the 12 teams, how many have confirmed rosters? Every team except for 1.
All right, Chamber might go top JurNii. That's what he did.
2. 1, 2.
So Jake Hale, who's leaked most of these rosters so far, says the following last night. Only 4 teams that haven't really had any concrete rosters leaked yet. Who do you expect to build the best team? So these are really the 4 that we don't really know much about. Now, Seattle Surge is probably going to be the Vancouver Surge, and we'll see that briefly later on today. LA Gorillas, Vegas, London. Now, Vegas and London will take some time, and the general reason why they wait a long time is because if they sign players now, they have to pay those players salaries for the next few months while they're not working, as it were. So they would prefer to sign the players in, you know, November time, if they could, and then pay them for like 8 months or so, and then release them again, so they don't have to pay the full year-long salary. I guess that's what they're going for, and they've done this for some time. And also, in their perspective, like, they're not going to be signing the Simp and aBeZys of the world, are they? So they might as well just wait around and get the best of the rest. It would be funny if there was a 16-team league, because if there were 16 teams, Vegas might not be able to do that if they didn't want to be an absolute worst of the worst. But, you know, they can still wait ages and potentially still form a decent roster because there's still so much talent out there that doesn't get signed. Now, London, the rumour was they might move to Charlotte or North Carolina or something. We still don't know what's happening there. That might take months, and they will take a long time to decide their roster, as they always do. But we'd expect that out of these 4, these 2, Gorillas and Surge, should confirm something sooner. Jake Hale says soon, hopefully to Clayster intel, which implies that he might have heard a thing or 2, but doesn't have it confirmed by enough sources yet to say, oh yeah, for sure Clay's going here. He also mentions that Gorillas might have some potential depending on the route that they take, which almost implies they're looking at a few different options, which I'm sure that they are, and I'm sure that they should, to be honest, because at this point, you don't have competition if you're Gorillas from Vegas or London, so you can take your time a little bit. The only team that's competing with you for players here is Surge, and they might already have a pretty solid idea for what they're doing. The rumour that's been floating around, of course, has been Clayster and attach potentially to Los Angeles Gorillas. Maybe reform that duo as an AR combination over there on Gorillas this time. I think it might make a lot of sense for attach to end up there on that roster, actually. I think we've talked about that in the past, and him going with Clay just makes a bit of sense. And we also had Clay the other day saying that, oh yeah, like, you know, which is the best SMG duo on the market right now that we could get. So there seemed to be something in that. But obviously Clay says that most of the teams know what they're doing now, and he's kind of waiting for it to get confirmed type thing. Whereas Jake Hale doesn't seem to quite agree with Clay, because he says, where are you getting your info from, bro? I need it apparently, because, you know, from his understanding, this is not the case, that all of these teams but 2 are confirmed. So yeah, what do we think about this? But I imagine that Gorillas and Surge must have a very solid idea what they're doing. It's been too long at this point for them not to have a very good idea what direction they're trying to take on this one. Of course, Ghosty would be a nice target for some of these teams, but we believe is going to be going to Los Angeles Thieves. But if either Ghosty or Cammy don't end up there and they do get aBeZy instead, and they might try and get all of those guys and put one of them on the bench at the start of the season, that was discussed, that would be a good option for other teams. We also saw the other day, right, this clip going around of Illy being asked, like, oh, has your team been confirmed yet? And I just struggle to believe that if Rambo is signed to Surge, that he hasn't at least spoken to the likes of Illy and Hook and those guys to reform some sort of squad over there. It just makes too much sense, and maybe they're looking at aBeZy, maybe they're looking at others. So that's just the way the present rumours rumors line up is that maybe Clay attach +2 on Gorillas, and maybe like Hook, Illy, and aBeZy or something like that over on the Surge. Because again, you'd have thought after the season that Hook had, and yes, playing with the OpTic guys and teaming up with Shotzzy is maybe going to make you look better as an SMG than you otherwise would, but Hook was a very solid player for the majority of this season online. Yes, he made his mistakes in his first year of mistakes at that, and that's just the way that Hook is, but still, I mean, Hook was one of the best SMG players on the latter half of this season, so like there's no way that he's just straight up not even getting talked to. And it's kind of funny in a way actually, because when Clay put out that tweet about the best SMGs, most people aren't really replying with Hook, and I don't think that's because they don't think about Hook in that way. It's just more so they imagine that he's getting another good team elsewhere, I suppose, and maybe it could be Surge. Another player that I'm looking at is going to be HyDra as well, because HyDra, I don't think he's necessarily been hard done by on Toronto, because look, they thought they could upgrade from HyDra, Envoy, world champion, one of the best players in any real SMG role was available. They're going to make that move, but HyDra won his first ever LAN tournament. He turned up to Major 3 and won it. Like, the last player to do that was Scump, like over a decade ago. Very rare, and HyDra, I think, does deserve a CDL spot. It might end up being on London, right? And the thing is with London that they, you know, you can never really trust their decision making, to be honest, and they might go down an entirely different route. And I thought it was interesting from JP Krez here that on the same team, HyDra and Insight led the league in percentage of hardpoint deaths with an attempted trade. Really difficult, I imagine, to calculate this accurately, but still, this is what they say, that the teamwork and cohesion of that team was different gravy, and HyDra had #1 in the league. In terms of attempting to get the trade of his teammates, maybe what it means is engaging with the player that killed your teammate within 5 seconds of like your teammate dying. I don't know, maybe the time frames are different, but something to that effect anyway. Doesn't show that you necessarily won or lost the gunfight. That's another story, and one of the reasons maybe why they want Envoy instead of HyDra in the roster. So yeah, these are all your 12 teams, and the most of the top ones we kind of know. Mutineers as well, we believe we know what's going on there with the Spanish thing, with the Vikul guys, and well, Vikul staying and then the Spanish guys coming in. Rocker we think we know with accuracy and that, but they could all still change their mind. But Clay seems to believe that most of these teams pretty much know what their plans are at this point. And I thought this is pretty shocking in some respects as well here actually. So this is overall record and top 3 finish. So we saw yesterday that FaZe had more series wins than Gorillas had series plays. Chicago, well OpTic actually, I don't know why I said Chicago. I guess I just read it off this, but Chicago, Huntsman, OpTic, Texas, if you're looking at it from that perspective, 111 in 63, so by far the second highest series wins in the CDL. Then you get New York and Ultra actually tied. Thieves weren't there year 1, so that's why things are a bit different here. And then you go down to 41 for Vegas. Kind of impressive that Legion, I guess, you know, Boston have only been around a couple of seasons, but Legion actually do have more wins than Gorillas, which is pretty embarrassing for LAG, I'm not going to lie. And even London almost have 50, which I guess is kind of respectable given the shambles that they've seemingly been over the last couple of years. But I will quickly mention from Attach here, this was only spotted last night, I believe, but was tweeted, well, I'll put on Instagram or whatever, quite a few days ago, where this guy Logan Cook says, oh, you know, you're bringing the heat, and Attach says, I'll be bringing the heat to Minnesota soon too, like MN Minnesota. Now, some people read this as, oh, he's going to be going back to Rocker, joining Minnesota again, but I kind of read this as, he's bringing the heat to Minnesota, as in, you know, his former team, get revenge, all this stuff. So, which kind of implies that he's, I would at least read this as being more likely that he's confident that he's joining another team, and then will be, you know, looking forward to playing against Minnesota, as is often the case when players leave their former team. So, tweet your perspective on that one in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.